There was this DJ over in Camden, his name was Tommy Roberts, and he had a little jazz program on WKDN in Camden. And he was able to get the jazz musicians of the day, the famous ones that came to town that were either playing at the Showboat or Peps or the Blue Note, and he was able to get them, I don't know how he did it, but to come, and he had this idea to come, to bring them in on Friday afternoons to the Heritage House, and he called it the Jazz Workshop, and it was specifically for kids to be able to go and see all these famous jazz musicians that they couldn't see in the clubs, you know. So anyway, this one week they were supposed to have Chet Baker and Charlie Parker there, and Chet Baker came, but Bird didn't show up, you know. So Chet did his thing, and you know, the kids got up and played and everything. And after it was over, everybody left, and Barry and I, and then there was another guy with us, and we were putting the chairs, and we had to take 2 chairs at a time, take them upstairs, and then come down and get 2 more. So after one trip upstairs, when I was coming down, I see 2 guys walk in, and one was Charlie Parker. And when I was coming down the stairs, and I wouldn't usually, I was kind of surprised myself when I saw him. I said, "Hey, Bird." I always remembered that, you know. And he looked up, and the next thing I know, the other 2 kids joined me, and we're talking with Bird. And he was with this other guy who I sort of suspected had spent the entire day with him. They came down to Philly on a train or something like this. And this guy was like, had reached a point where he was really impatient, and he was saying, "Come on, Bird, I told you nobody's going to be here. You're late," and this and that, you know. "Let's leave." And Bird said, "No, I don't want to leave. I'm talking with my friends now." He was like really, really nice, you know, which I'm grateful for, because sometimes I've met some of those guys that weren't that way, you know. But anyway, he said to me, it was funny, after we had been talking to him for maybe 5 minutes, he said, "Oh, by the way," he said, "my name is Charlie Parker, and this is my horn." And he sort of introduced us to his horn, you know. We sort of had the feeling like you almost wanted to say, like, "Hi, horn," or something like, you know, that's the way that he kind of did it. So he said to me, where was I supposed to play? And I said, "Well, it's a room down over there. It's like about 30 feet away." I said, "Over there, but everybody's gone now, and the room is dark." And he said, "Well, I want you to take me to that room." And I said, "Well, there's nobody in there. It's all closed down." He said, "Please take me over to the room." You know, so we walked him over to the room, and when he got inside, he says, "Now you can tell the guy I was here." One of the things, like I said, those things that we had back in the 50s, like that jazz workshop, that only lasted I think it only lasted maybe less than a year, but it was very helpful. And I mean, see, the thing is, jazz wasn't being taught in the schools then. Now you have a lot of things where kids can go. They can go to school. There's all kind of activities where kids are invited to attend clinics and all that, and they get to play and they get to learn. We really had to learn from listening to the recordings. Even most of the teachers that we had as private teachers would teach you how to play your instrument, but they didn't get into improvisation and things like that. So it was a lot of it was learned from playing records and listening to them over and over and trying to cop what was going on and to figure out what changes were being played and stuff like that. I still think that was a good way to learn it, because when you learn it that way, you tend to be able to retain it, because when everything's written out for you, I mean, I've seen a lot of students nowadays, they'll open a real book, you know, and they'll look at a tune and see them 2 years later, and they're still looking at the real book to play the same tune, you know. Well, you know, there were no real books then, and I don't want to sound like one of those guys that say, "Well, in my day we had to, you know, walk 75 miles to school in the snow," and not that, but the thing was, you really had to learn how to do it by ear, and, you know, and learn, and that way it kind of stuck, you know. It wasn't a thing where you could say, "Well, anytime I want to know that, I can always get my book and open it up and find out."